welcome back to the podcast. My guest this time out is singer-songwriter Brian Grogan. Brian's an Irish singer-songwriter based in London. He's came through the open mic scene that spawned Ed Sheeran and Passenger, people like that. We're going to talk about his career and recently his problems with his voice after being diagnosed with vocal nodules. We're going to talk about all this, plus a whole lot more, and Brian's going to pick his heroes. Hope you all enjoy the podcast. Please keep liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing, but most of all, enjoy.
It's all it takes, and I will come in different shapes. A simple thing, a true word spoke, a life untouched, so we both joke, this will come.
On the podcast this week, I have Brian Grogan, Irish singer-songwriter based in London. His latest single came out the end of May, and we're going to talk about his career from early life to how he got to where he is now. Thanks very much for coming on, Brian. What I like to do at the start is go right back to the start, what life was like for a young Brian Grogan growing up.
Yeah, life at the beginning. I suppose I'd start. I mean, I was raised in rural Ireland. Life was pretty fast, as you can imagine. Jumping between one grandparent to the next grandparent. My parents didn't really believe in sitting down very much, so we were always on the road. Yeah, between Castleblaney and Belturbet, which are places you will never have heard of, Martin.
Whereabouts would that be in Ireland?
Rural centre, so just below the border.
Right.
Just south of, yeah, from the borders. And I know in Scotland you also have a sort of area that you call the borders. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, so that'd be like southern Scotland, kind of just over for Carlisle, just over the border for Carlisle. So my big sister stayed in the borders for a bit.
Right. Well, you can think of me as a border man.
So what was that like then, kind of growing up there? Was this, obviously with the Irish history, with the troubles and stuff like that, did you see any of that, or was that more the northern side?
Only when we had relatives north of the border, so only when we were crossing the border, because there was still an army presence on the border, so we would have seen that. But it was kind of a little bit before my time. I then went and lived in Belfast for 10 years, so I seen bits of it in that sense. But again, this was a lot later, and the peace walls were well and truly up. Yeah, but it was grand. One side of the family very sporty, one side of the family very musical. My mum's dad was a sort of professional singer, double bass player, a violinist in big bands and big show bands in Ireland, and so that was it. There's a lot of music on that side of the family, and we would, yeah.
And was that then like ambitions and influences? Was that the sort of, even as a youngster, did you kind of know that that's what you wanted to do then, go down the musical route?
I wouldn't say that was, no, I'd say I was raised with that, but my own individual journey, as it were, started more in secondary schools. And I mean, really, when I think about it, consuming a live DVD of the Red Hot Chili Peppers playing in Slane in Ireland, that was my first. That's when the spark first grew for me, I think. Which is a very visual as well as an audio concept. I wasn't just intaking the music, but also I don't know if you've seen much of the Red Hot Chili Peppers playing, but their presence on stage is...
Oh, yeah.
It's like no other band. And it was around that time that secondary schools, in our secondary schools, every man and his dog was starting a cover band.
Mm-hmm.
And so a few friends of mine just picked a paper out of a hat. I chose drums, and so I went down the drum route. I was a drummer for many years, um, and then drums followed me to university, and I joined a original band, and I needed more of the limelight, Martin. I couldn't deal with being at the
Yeah.
back of the stage. So I decided I'd try songwriting, and that followed me to London, and that's when I started seriously getting into writing. So I was really, yeah, I wasn't doing so
So,
much writing until then.
so what did you do? What did you go to university? What were you doing there?
Civil engineering.
Right. And how did that then kind of fall by the wayside to the music?
Um, well, I was saying to a friend yesterday that I think I suffered from wrong careeritis for 10 years because I studied for 4 years and then I worked as an engineer for 10 years and I just left it behind in 2019 to do full-time music.
Right.
So um, it's been alongside my journey with music for a long time because I didn't know, do I want a career in music? Can I have a career in music? How does that work? What does it look like? People I've met who are full-time musicians seem really jaded. Do I want to become a jaded musician? And it wasn't until I met someone who was doing it full time, who seemed to still have a spark and to be happy with
Mm.
life, that I thought, oh, you know what? I think I should give this a go. The clock's ticking, time's running
Yeah.
out.
Well, it must be like this sort of outlet. It must be like a kind of a scab or something that's needing picked. Like it's like an itch that needs scratched. Like all the time that you're sitting kind of dormant for the music, it must be kind of eating away at you that you need to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised on. I started with a tin whistle. It didn't really do anything for me. Then fiddle again. That was nice, but then I went to piano and it was more boxed in. And then I went to drums. But I don't think. Yeah, I think it was when I got into songwriting that I really started to. It became really therapeutic. The whole writing. I mean, yeah, that and drums was when it really started to become something I needed to do more than
Mhm.
something I was forced to do or that it was recommended by my parents that I do.
Back in Ireland, what was your musical incarnations of Brian Grogan like? What did you initially start as? I've got down here something about Maguire and I, but
Haha, yeah.
um, I wrote this down a couple of weeks ago when I initially done the research, and now I can't find anything else about it.
Yeah, I suppose when I have written about my inspirations, it's only now that I knew I was coming on this podcast that I've done a lot of thinking about it. And it seems I was heavily influenced by the Americans, um, from the Chili's, and then I went a little bit darker towards Metallica, Nirvana, and um, then was when I started to get into guitar, things like people like John Mayer, he was a really big influence. Um, and there was a lot of people on the Belfast scene who were a big influence on me as well. I feel like I've been influenced both from the very high level and also from people from the unsigned independent artist level a lot. And
Hmm.
um, but growing up, it was all um, it was getting obsessed with one artist. So I would get obsessed and want to learn every single song of the Red Hot Chili Peppers or U2 or Blink 182. Um, and that's to this day it's still the same. I just get I obsess over one artist and will listen and go back and listen to everything they've done, everything they've said. Um,
Yeah, I think it's quite natural to kind of, but I find it hard to be into two different artists at the once. Really, like obviously, like through doing the research for yourself. I've been trying to just listen to your music the last couple of days rather than anything else, just so that I kind of get a
I'm
feel.
sorry to hear that.
No, I don't be sorry. It's but I mean like the your latest single that will come on at the end, man, it's mesmerizing, man. I
Oh,
think it's your best chat.
oh. I
So
mean, yeah, that's very kind of you to say, Martin.
I
Um,
did I have listened to it about 10 times in a row today, so that might be why it's seeped in so much.
yeah. Oh, thank you. You're the only one. But no, I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. It's really interesting when you a lot of artists who think what they think of as their best work and what actually then is received best. Um, it's often very dangerous, I feel, for an artist to decide what their favorite work is because they're often never the right people to judge what their best work is. Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to be podcasting, so like the other day, on Friday, I did a podcast, and I don't usually record a podcast and put it straight out, but I did on Friday, um, and I would say that's the best podcast I've done. But then I feel like that after every podcast I do is my best.
oh,
So it's probably about the enjoyment I get in making that and how fresh it is. So I would say maybe with musicians, it must come down to what you get out of making the song that would that's how you would class your best song.
yeah, I think I probably get more out of sharing it
Hmm.
live than I do from the writing process. I feel like it's the writing, the live stimulates the writing for me. I think a lot of people are the other way around, where they are more writers, whereas I consider myself more of a performer,
Hmm.
um, first and a writer second. Uh, I get excited about sharing.
So that's where you get your kicks in for the performance rather than making it until you get it out and play it to people. It doesn't seem to have the same kind of meaning as such.
There's probably an immediate catharsis from writing it, but then it feels like it's just a stored up energy that needs to be released.
Yeah, yeah, I get that as well. Yeah, as I say, man, I mean, I do genuinely think that song's it's sublime.
Oh,
It
thank
is
you.
sublime. If you listen to it 10 times in a row, it must be nothing short of sublime.
It's darker. It's dark. One of the darker ones of the ones I've written.
Hmm. But we're going to kind of touch on your career through, so we'll maybe see how the sounds evolved for the start. But obviously, what I usually do as well, I've looked through your Instagram the day. So your Instagram seems to start around about 2016, and pretty soon into that, you're away to America. So,
Yeah, that was it. That was the girl told me to start my Instagram. I was seeing at the time.
hmm.
I was off to do a tour of the open mic scene in New York. A friend of mine that I'd met who'd been over here, um, and she said you should start an Instagram. That's what everyone's doing now, and share the the story.
Hmm.
So that'll be why the first few posts were of that.
So how was America then? Like for you going out there, obviously it's kind of like a pilgrimage anyway to many Irish people to go out to New York and
Yeah,
um,
maybe. Yeah, I mean, I can't really say that I probably in the same way that I can't really say that I've done England because I only know London. I've done the odd show here and there outside London, but in the same way that I don't feel like London represents the rest of England and New York represents the rest of America. Like they're very much individual hubs,
mhm,
and in some ways the countries, the same way that Dublin's very different to the rest of Ireland. I often think the big cities don't represent the country themselves, but I had spent I've been lucky enough to find this community in London, this open mic community, and just an amazing bunch of people, talented people that have been on my music and played live with me over the past few years. But I'd always had this itch that is there something I'm missing in New York? And I couldn't get rid of that itch until I went over. And so I went over just to experience what the New York scene was like, the open mic, the grassroots, the very bottom. And I mean, I came back thinking, God, what we have in London, we're so lucky because it doesn't exist to the same extent in New York. And I've had other people who live in New York who've kind of told me that. And I'm sure there's a scene in New York. I just didn't tap into it in the short time that I was there.
Maybe it's died away. Obviously, like maybe the early 2000s, New York seemed to be massive. You had all the bands coming out, like the Strokes,
Yes.
off that kind of bandwagon. Obviously, I get the book, Meet Me in the Bathroom, which is all about that kind of scene.
Huh.
I think for around about 2002 to 2007. So maybe it kind of at the end of that, and then it is probably more vibrant nowadays in London.
Well, I think even I don't. I mean, I don't know why I think this, but I think back to Paul Simon, the Paul Simon era, and all of that. And that must have been a wonderful thing to be around.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, from my very little experience of New York, I was um, happy with the grass. I was lived on over here.
Mm. So, what about in terms of London then? When did you kind of make the move from Ireland to London? What year would that have been?
That was 2012, the year
Right.
of the Olympics, about a week before my 25th birthday, um, and just before the Olympics came to London.
And what was the plan then? Were you coming here
I
specifically with the music in mind?
Absolutely not. No, I had a horrible job in Belfast, and I was offered the a job to help make the Elizabeth line, which now exists in London. I was as a tunneling engineer, and so I took that job, and I mean it was kind of awful because I was then on 12-hour shifts, um, doing 7 days a week, 4 days off, 7 nights a week, and then
Hmm.
2 days off, and sort of trapped in this cycle, and not really being able to see anyone. And yes, that wasn't a particularly happy time. I didn't do that much. I did one or two really bad open mics and thought, oh, this is no good. And then I think I got a regular 9 to 5 um, engineering job, and I went on holiday at the beginning of that job to New Zealand for 3 weeks, and I was kind of semi offered a job over there, and I thought, well, what would I regret if I leave London now? And that was that I just didn't give music a good shot, and so I just decided when I get home, I'll give it another go. I'll hell for leather, and I started going to 3 or 4 open mics. Yeah, maybe up to 4 open mics a week for about a year, and I soon found this community. I got very lucky, and that's kind of where it all started for me, I
Right.
think.
And in this open mic scene back then, back 2012,
This is more
what's
2015 time,
right,
2016.
2050. So from this scene, obviously, like again, looking through your Instagram, there's kind of quite a few musicians that pop up that you've been associated with for these open mic, but none that kind of stand out to me like that I know their names or anything. But is there any bigger people that have came for this scene?
Oh, that's a good question. Why? I mean, about 4 or 5 years ago, Ed Sheeran obviously came through that scene. So you'd hear
Mhm.
stories of that Ed had played this same open mic. Um,
Right. That's
he's
kind of what I thought because like kind of like your early sound that I was getting was kind of like similar to Ed Sheeran, similar to Passenger, and obviously a bit of Damien Rice, but I don't know if that was the Irish. But I mean, with the Damien Rice, like listening to you speak on the podcast, you sound Irish, but like your singing voice, the Irish doesn't seem to come across to me.
No, no. I mean, I was joking around with my partner earlier, because I was talking about the American influences, and she was like, "Well, that's because you sing with an American accent." And I don't know that it's such an American accent, but it's not definitely not a heavy Irish accent that I sing with, not at all.
Hmm.
And that's probably down to my, Damien was a lot later. Damien was more when I started to get into songwriting. Um, there was some Northern Irish bands. Foy Vance was a big influence. So I probably sang with a Northern Irish accent at some point. Um, but I think by the time my voice was being crafted, I think it was all American artists that I
Hmm.
was singing. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you hear an American accent, but you probably don't hear an Irish one.
Well, I don't know so much if I hear the American accent, but the thing that I get later on, as obviously you mentioned Simon Garfunkel, and I think that's where the kind of it sounds more like that now than like the earlier people that I mentioned. It sounds more Simon Garfunkel type.
Paul
Um,
Simon was a massive, yeah, I can't say that I listened to like all of his albums, but Paul Simon's, for some reason, it's sunk in. I definitely listened to a good bit of his music, but I couldn't tell you like six of his um albums.
yeah.
But yeah, it's sunk in, I think, in my songwriting.
So again on your Instagram, it goes for 2016, and then there's like between 2016 and 2017, like, and it's like a total year, like from September 2016 to September 2017, there's no posts.
Oh,
So I just wondered what happened there. Did you just go AWOL for like a year?
I'm actually not allowed to talk about that because of a court case. Um, no, to be fair, I think what a lot of artists will do is they'll look back on their Instagram and go, okay, things are starting to get a bit more serious now. I probably don't need everyone seeing some of the more embarrassing posts. So you can just hide. I think there are probably a lot more posts in there that they call it archiving, but
Hmm.
essentially, not for public consumption, Martin.
um, so touching on the old mic scene in London, because that's what obviously you said that's where you've mainly played, like kind of Camden, Hoxton, these places. So what was the opportunities like for gigs? Were you gigging most nights?
I would say I was open micing most nights. I'd say I was attending a lot of gigs. I was probably playing maybe a gig every 1 or 2 months, maybe at the peak of me gigging. Um, but it was mostly open mics. Like I went to a weekly open mic on a Sunday night for about 5 years in Hackney. Um, and I think that's how I became the artist that I am. That essentially crafted me into the artist I am. I didn't do as many gigs. It was mostly just open mics. I was doing gigs, but I wasn't definitely wasn't gigging um every week. Certainly not. Um,
Right. And what's the community like then within the open mics then? Is everybody supportive of one another?
yeah, they were. They're a very transient thing, and it doesn't exist in anywhere the same way that it used to. Um, they were very supportive, and we were either if I wasn't playing a gig, I was going to see someone else's gig to support them. I wasn't really going to any bands. Like, they were mostly free gigs that I was supporting and going to. Um, and but sadly, open mics don't last, and London being as it is, it's very transient. People go off and do other things, and they move out. They moved to different cities, and COVID, I think, maybe sped everyone's maturity levels up. Everyone just kind of grew up a bit quicker and had
Hmm.
a bit more introspection and realized, do I want to be here doing this and it doesn't exist in the same way. There are still, luckily, I'm in contact with all of the people, and they still, my, musicians who play with me live, we're still very much a part of our lives. But the more broader sense, that community, I don't know if it still exists, and I don't, yeah, I guess this is something that you won't have maybe picked up on, but I've had a vocal injury since November.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that towards the end. I was aware of that because Ollie had mentioned it when I interviewed him. He'd mentioned it towards the end. So I
Right.
was,
So I mean, I am tempted to get back to seeing what that open mic scene looks like. But also, I do really like playing more than two or three songs in a night. So it's more likely that I'll get back to playing gigs, um, semi regularly than
mm,
necessarily open mics.
yeah. I mean, there's definitely still a place for it. I manage a band, and the last gig we played, one of the boys that went on one of the support acts was a singer songwriter, and that he done his set, and then that was him. He was off to play open mic nights around the city. So
Where is
it's
this? What city is this, Martin? Is this
in
in London?
Glasgow.
Oh, in Glasgow. Oh, nice.
So it definitely still exists. Obviously, if you look, I mean, some of the biggest stars, if you talk about Ed Sheeran, on up here, you get Jerry Cinnamon, but he came for the open mic scene, and he's went stratospheric. So it's definitely kind of the sort of place where you can hone your craft and
100%. 100%.
get comfortable with what your music is going to sound like later on.
Yeah. That was it for me, for
Hmm.
sure. That's been its purpose.
So
But now that it's crafted me, it's not necessarily. I don't know. I still like the idea of it, but I don't know how much more of it I'll do. I'd probably like to just concentrate on gigging. Um, but I
yeah,
also do like the stress of being able to just walk down to a venue and sing and share a new idea without worrying about trying to fill a venue and sell tickets and promote.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's a minefield of that as well, in it, and it's a constant headache. But going back in 2019, you released your first single from A to B. Well, your first single from the A to B EP. So there's 5 songs on that. I had a list of them here, but I've lost it. But the From A to B EP was brought out between 2019 and 2020. In a year, you released those 5 singles. So how proud were you, and how did that feel, kind of actually recording and releasing music? Obviously, you've already said previously you prefer performing, but to put something out there for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I attempted it so many times, and it took a long time to finally put something out that was. I had this idea of what I wanted to put out, but I had attempted it in loads of studios, I think 5 studios, and we were never getting to the point to what I imagined the music sounding like until I approached uh, Sticky Studios, which is actually where Ed Sheeran, the producer of Ed Sheeran's first and second album,
Right.
same studio, and I worked with a guy called Adam Coltman, and he produced that EP, and I realized that a producer can be very handy, especially if you're trying to release pop music, and
Hmm.
which I don't, yeah, which I think is essentially what I love to produce.
So, as I said, like, so from that EP, that's the kind of sound that I got was your, as I said, Ed Sheeran, Passenger, Damien Rice. Um, After that, kind of look at these. He played a couple of gigs in Switzerland. So how did the gigs come about? Where
Oh,
does
that was
Switzerland?
just through a friend who had a contact over there, and it was just a couple of house shows, which I'm
Right.
actually playing. I think it's towards the end of this year. We're heading back over there to play a few shows. Yeah, so it's just a contact. It's just kind of funny how the music industry works, that you meet someone and then they recommend you to a contact, and they happen to be a booker overseas. And I mean, it's the only contact I have other than shows in Ireland. It's the only contact abroad
Mhm.
that I have. My main contacts are all in London, so I don't, in terms of bookers and
So how have you noticed, like on your Spotify on the analytics and stuff like that? Have you noticed, like, have you got a lot of audience abroad, like Switzerland, for instance?
well, when you promote a tune and you get it on a playlist, that playlist could be based anywhere. So you could
Hmm.
have listeners anywhere in the world, and that's yeah, I have listeners all over the world, Brazil, Turkey. Yeah, they it's annoying they don't want to take the trip over to come to gigs, but um, yeah, but that's a whole other world, playlisting and Spotify and um, I mean, it's cool that it's reaching those countries, but I don't know if it's reaching. I have this uh, worry that it's not reaching real people, but just bots.
Mm.
So you never know, I guess, because you don't see real people coming to shows.
Like back home then in London, a lot of the gigs you were doing as well that seemed to be popping up were with sofa sounds.
Yeah.
Um, so a sofa sounds like a promoter, kind of like obviously you get this feeling. Do a lot of gigs as sofa sounds that sort of thing.
So far sounds. I mean, it was started by two guys who were sick of going to gigs and everyone was talking and on their phone and you
Hmm.
could never. So they started this bedroom, or it started literally in people's houses and it grew from there. I mean, I was a part of it for a very short period of time when a friend of a friend again
Hmm.
used to book for them, but their whole system has changed now. It's now through one. It's a bit more of just one person, or it's organized in a different way. And that guy who used to book for them doesn't book for them anymore. So I've fallen off their radar somewhat.
Right. It sprung out to me because obviously, my last guest, Lucy Barat, she did some gigs for them as well. So, um, that's how it kind of struck a chord with me.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean they're very interesting gigs. People buy a ticket to go see. They don't know who they're getting, so they're coming purely
yeah, for the love
for
of
this.
music and just to be,
Well, I don't. I mean, the love of music. I don't know about that. A quirky night out where you get to experience three random acts in a random location. When you play a show there, it doesn't necessarily. I like you play to a sold out venue, but that doesn't translate then to people then follow you and come to more gigs down the line. Um, that's
yeah, I
my
get you.
opinion of So Far Sounds. I mean, it's a wonderful experience because you have such an attentive audience and you get a sold out show, but it doesn't necessarily mean people are gonna follow your
So,
career and whatnot. At least that was my experience. I mean, some artists obviously have a different experience so far. That's just what
mhm.
I took from it.
So what about towards the end of that year as well? You did more London shows, obviously, and you did Belfast and Dublin. So what's it like, kind of back home in Ireland? What's the gigs like back then?
Well, that was a wonderful experience because I'd been playing over here for 6 or 7 years, and I hadn't played to an Irish show. Um, yeah, so it was just interesting. I felt there was a difference in the audience. They some of the things that I would say just between songs, um, were getting laughs in different places that I wasn't expecting.
Mhm.
Um, but obviously because I have an Irish sense of humor, and so uh, they would laugh in different places. I mean, a lot of A to B from A to B there's some comedy involved in that EP, and they would laugh in different places, which I thought was really interesting. Um, and yeah, no, it's just really nice to play shows in Ireland. I mean, I'm hoping to come back to Dublin at the end of the year, hopefully. Um, I don't know when I'll be back in Belfast, but those were all. Well, the Belfast show was the show that I booked myself, but the show in Dublin is was Ruby Sessions, which is a fairly um, big. It's kind of So Far Sounds esque, I think,
Right.
but it's again, it's a brilliant, brilliant. It was a brilliant gig. It's probably one of my best gigs, I think, potentially.
But
A
that
lot of big
sounds
names have
amazing.
played that show.
That sounds amazing. Um, your next releases, um, we've got Runny Nose, um, I'll Notice, and Rookie Mistake CP. None of them are on Spotify. Which,
No,
why did none of them make Spotify?
well, no,
Because,
they did. They were released on Spotify. I took them down. They were self-produced. It was during COVID,
uh-huh.
and I tried recording it all. I mean, these are songs that were kind of like almost a B-side to From A to B. They were written sort of around the same time, but
Hmm.
when I was coming to release the latest singles, they didn't really stack up on a level, and um, yeah, I thought they'd do more harm than good. If I'm being honest, and I think the songwriting wasn't as strong, and sadly we I had to take the opinion of, well, how is this going to help, as opposed to just leaving the art up there for all to consume. And I
Right.
had to think more in terms of strategy, in terms of what way it was going to work to benefit my music. I
So,
mean, I've heard, yeah,
so are they not available anywhere then?
they are available to buy on Bandcamp.
Right. I might do that. I might go and have a look and see. I hope you don't mind if I do.
Oh no, absolutely no. I'm not. I don't. It's just I just thought for Spotify that was a wiser decision, because um, Spotify is just there for everyone to see, to consume for free, whereas Bandcamp. I
Yeah.
mean, you can still consume on Bandcamp for free, but you have the option of buying.
Yeah. I mean, that thing with Bandcamp, I've bought quite a few off of Bandcamp, and I would always find if an artist went to the bother of setting up a Bandcamp and they're, they're giving it for free, but you can pay something. I think people should always pay. Um,
It's so unusual, though. It's to think that the people who are buying music are the outliers, and the people who are listening for free are what's the norm. But that's just. I mean,
yeah.
I haven't bridged that gap. I've only existed in the world of as an artist, as a releasing artist, a recording artist. I've only ever existed in the stream world,
Hmm.
so I don't know what it's like for artists to have sold hard copies and to now be faced with the streaming world. And I mean that must be very complex. I feel like it's almost easier to be an unsigned artist than an artist that's selling 800, 900 cap um, venues these
Yeah,
days.
it must be so much work for them, like promoting everything to sell everything. It must be just relentless.
I seen
Um,
a post there. My partner, who's a musician and artist as well, a fantastic artist, also known as March, but her name is Kitty, and she sent me a post about, it was an artist who's selling out somewhere between 250 and 900 cap venues across the UK, and they're making a loss at each venue, even though they're making a profit of maybe overall 10K on 6 shows. They're making a loss of about £3,000 when it all comes down to it. So yeah, it's just really interesting
yeah,
where the money goes.
yeah. I mean, there's a good podcast. I don't know if you've heard it. It's Steve Lamack. He's brought out a new one called The Price of Music, and
Um,
they're talking about all sorts of stuff, like
I've
issues in
handed
the music
Steve
industry.
a CD, so I only know Steve in that I've handed him a CD and said, "Can you please listen to my music?" Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if he did.
Well, I've listened. Steve Lamack was a hero of mine, and I've emailed him countless times to get him on the podcast, and he's blanked me, and then just started this one himself. So um, I don't
Oh, I'm
know,
sure
maybe
he gets a lot of contact and whatnot.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he's no reading my emails, and he's no listening to your music.
No, what are you gonna do?
So what like you touched on COVID? Then how did COVID kind of, other than the kind of self-produced stuff that you did, how else did COVID affect you?
I mean, I hate to say it, but I think it affected me in a rather positive way because I had been working as a full-time cover artist, singing in covers for money, selling my soul, and I think I'd forgotten, I'd lost my way in terms of an original artist, and so having to stop completely was good in that I was able to get back to the drawing board and do a lot more writing and get back to what I actually love about music. So yeah, it was weirdly a positive experience. I mean, I'm quite a glasses half full kind of person anyway. I like to
Mm.
see the positive in things, but um, yeah,
I,
I think
I
it
would
did
say
help.
about 90% of my guests that I've had on the podcast have kind of spoke of COVID as being beneficial to their careers because it's gave them time to kind of, either if they're just starting out, it's gave them time to kind of hone their craft, or maybe in your case to kind of maybe take a step back and reinvent yourself and maybe go in a different direction or whatever. So I think there it's very rare that you get that kind of breathing space to be able to kind of take the
100%.
time.
I think everyone, not even just music. I think for a lot of people, it felt
Mm.
it felt like a reset button, or a hard look at your life. I mean, obviously not the kids, but anyone in their 20s, 30s upwards, I would have thought. I mean,
Yeah.
not so much 20s.
So, like your next run of singles that came out in 2023, were they all kind of ideas that you had from before COVID, like to come directly after your debut EP?
They were, one or two of them had maybe started before COVID, and the rest, the other three, and then the other four that I'm releasing this year, were all during COVID and post COVID, or during COVID actually. To be fair, hard to know what the end of COVID was.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing the podcast from probably from COVID times, and even
Yeah,
still, I can't remember when COVID was. It's just like I kind of, it was
I
nearly
remember
like
when it
a
started,
year.
but I don't really know when it ended. It's a bit of a
Yeah,
grey area as to.
yeah, it's confusing, but like coming back then with this run of singles, um, last year, what do you think it changed for you?
Um, what did it change for me? I mean, I don't think anything really changed other than I was just so. I feel like the big change came from working with the producer who who I worked with on the singles, um, and yeah, I don't know. He's just changed. He's had probably the biggest influence, and in a lot of ways, I feel like even though I wrote the songs, he has had such a massive input on the music. Um, yeah, it's hard to know. I don't know if anything's changed other than maybe my outlook on music is slightly different on how I release, how I record music. Um, Even though I had quite, I did still take a lot of it. I learned a lot from the previous EP that I'd released, Rookie Mistakes, um, and so I did a lot. I did a lot of it myself. But then when it came time to release it, his input was invaluable. I mean, he's a lot. There's a lot of him in those songs,
Hmm.
um, and that's just been a really interesting. It's been a collaboration in a sense, even though he's kind of come in at the end of the songs, but from a released point of view and from how they're recorded and produced, it's very much feels more like a collaboration
Right.
than yeah.
And is it the same producer you're working with on this new stuff this year as well?
Yes. So from A to B, different producer, rookie mistakes, myself mostly, and then yeah, all these the last 5 songs in the next. I mean, I don't know when I'll stop going to them, but yeah, the next 4 songs at least um are with this guy Fiacra Makarakti, who's an Irish producer
Hmm.
and also an artist in his own right, who's um, going to be releasing music himself very soon, I believe.
We'll keep an eye out for him as well.
Yeah, I think Ollie would. So he put me in touch with Ollie, and it's the reason why I know Ollie
Right. So
through
when
Fiacra.
did that become about then? Around about the time he released these stuff then? Is that when you met Ollie?
I met Ollie. So to backtrack a bit, I had recorded a lot of these songs, and then I approached to a friend of mine called Filippo Galli. He's a fantastic drummer, and we were going to play a few shows with these songs. And so we did a couple of rehearsals, and in the rehearsals, he was talking with this new artist that he was working with, and he's also a producer, and you should try him out. And so that's how I started working with Fiacra. And then towards the end of working with Fiacra, when I was talking about releasing, that he said that he'd worked with Ollie before and thought he was fantastic. So he sent him my way, and that's really that story. It's not a
Yeah.
great story.
Yeah, Ollie's a good guy. He's a brilliant guest on the podcast as well, both for kind of his music and for the other stuff that he does within the music industry. It was good to kind of get a couple of different angles.
Yeah,
When talking to him, obviously he'd recommended yourself, but he'd mentioned you weren't able to sing anyway. But I'm not sure even if you were allowed to speak. I'm not sure what the how badly your voice was affected. So what happened there? What was the script with that?
I had become a professional musician, so I was singing in pubs. These are normally 2 hour gigs in a loud environment, um, 3 or 4 times a week. And I've never had singing lessons, so my singing technique has got nothing to do with uh, being able to do it in a safe, controlled way, and everything to do with trying to sound like Damien Rice. Um, and so I did that for a few years, and I guess yeah, it kind of shows how resilient the vocal cords are. But in 2023, I was alongside doing that. I was also started another started working as a cycle instructor as a bit of a side hustle to kind of get a bit of extra cash, and was talking to large groups of kids in schools from Monday to Friday. Um, so using my voice all week, and then at weekends singing these mammoth gigs
Mm-hmm.
um, for someone, especially for someone who's no singing lessons. And so at November last year, it just my voice was finally you've pushed me too far, and that's it. I'm giving up.
So what happens? Did it just kind of stop completely? Is it like
No, it was just a no, it wasn't. It was a I was noticing a hoarseness, and I'd lost my voice a couple of times over the course of being a professional musician. Like every now and again, I'd lose my voice, but this was a hoarseness that wasn't going away for months, and I tried to ignore it, and then finally thought, you know what, I need to go to a doctor, um, and then when I finally got it checked out, they noticed a growth, just a little nodule growing on the side of my one of my vocal cords, uh, and a bit of hemorrhaging, and then later another one was developing, and it ended up being a nodule on both sides, and um, so some professional singers don't need to necessarily take a step back if they can get someone involved who can help with the rehabilitation. But I have taken a massive step back because I need to essentially learn to walk again.
hmm.
So that's what I'm doing at the moment, just sort of learning how to approach this from a safe, sustainable way, if that's at all possible.
It must be frightening, like obviously the prospect like there must be so much going through your head. Like, will you be able to sing again? All that must affect you so much if this is your kind of livelihood. To lose it would be a massive.
Bad
Um,
year.
yeah.
Even in the short term, not being able to socialize and see anyone, not being able to write, it was weird. But again, I thought I could see the positive in it because all of last year I sang 50 weddings last year. So I'd again went full throttle with singing music that wasn't mine. And so
Hmm.
being able to take a step back again, it's like I seem to need a reset button every 3 years, Martin. It seems to be what's good for me. So first
How
it was
did
COVID. Now
how did the
it's
wedding singing come in? Was that Ollie? Did Ollie get you into that? Because he does quite a bit of that, doesn't he?
I'd been recommended through a guy I'd met on the cover scene. The some band needed a lead singer, and I was picked up in January 2022, and a band that had already got 65 weddings in the diary that year because it was
Right.
post COVID and there was this whole backlog of everyone wanting to get married. And it
Hmm.
was 50 last year and it was 35 this year, but I've had to give all of those weddings away to other singers. Um, so yeah, but it has been compared to when I started doing this full time music malarkey, it was singing in pubs with six TVs on at the same time on your own. Um, not a very musical experience compared to playing with two other musicians in a wedding band who are fantastic lads and really talented. And I'm so lucky to have found them and be uh, able to play with them. That's been a real joy. And that's been a real turning point in terms of the cover scene and playing music.
Hmm.
But even at that, even though it's good and I get a lot from it, um, my true, what I truly love about music is playing my own music, having someone
Yeah.
applaud you for something that you've created out of nothing, and then play it, perform it on stage. It's like no other. It's a kick like no other. When you play a 2 hour wedding, sorry, I'm ranting, Martin here.
No,
When you play a two
I
hour
understand.
when you play a 2 hour wedding gig, it feels like you've been playing music for 2 hours. When you play a 40-minute original gig, it feels like it's lasted 5 minutes.
Mm. Yeah,
It's the difference for me between playing someone else's music and playing my own.
I had one of my previous guests was a boy from Sheffield, Sam Sherdell, and he was the same. He kind of probably fell into the trap of playing weddings, and because as you say, there's weddings every weekend, so it's a
Lucrative.
steady stream of money. But when you're playing these, then you're not developing your own music that you're writing. So essentially, at some point, something has to give in it, and something has to take the back seat.
And that was these for me.
Yeah. So,
Just for the listeners, that I pointed out my vocal cords.
so how are we looking now in terms of your vocal cords? What's the prognosis and where do we go? Obviously, you've already released a track, so what is more music to release, and when will you next be gigging?
So I mean, it was what it was a camera down my throat every 6 weeks to see how things were going, and I was on a strict no talking, no singing, not no talking, but very no loud talking, no singing, no drinking, no anaerobic exercise, and that was the first 3 months, and then I've been passed over to this vocal coach who has experience with a crazy number of singers from like uh, Morrison. Um, oh, I can't even think of the people. Um, anyway, a crazy roster of people that she's helped with this exact problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I'm at the moment, where I'm just trying to learn how to sing again. And so that's ongoing. And I'm at a point now where this is very exciting, but I'm probably going to I'm going to go attend my first open mic, which is run by friends of mine on Thursday this week, which will be the first time that I'm going to perform since since this has all happened. So that's where
Brilliant.
I'm at, in that I think I'm ready to start singing now, and hopefully towards the end of this year book a show, and um that's I think where I'm at. I don't think I'm being optimistic. I think I'm being pretty conservative with that, but
Mm-hmm.
that's I think where I'm at.
I'd love to be at that open mic night just to see it because it must be, it'll
It'd be
be
awful. It'd
such a
be absolutely
massive
awful.
thing for you.
Yeah, I
I'd
mean,
imagine it'd be quite overwhelming as well.
yeah, yeah, or just lots of cobwebs coming off.
That's this Thursday, obviously. Musically, then, as it says, you've released this your last single, which I've gushed about throughout the podcast. Over to you. Um, what's coming next year? Is there other stuff that's already been recorded that's due for release?
Well, I'm very excited to announce on your podcast for the first time. I'll be releasing a single on the 19th of July. Is the next single,
Right.
and um, that's a song called "What's Left Of." Uh, yeah, so you heard it here first, folks.
It might be the first time I've ever had a world exclusive on my podcast.
That's the word I was looking for. Exclusive. You got
And
me.
I'm going to
Yeah.
put that on the show notes in capital letters with exclamation marks either side of it. This is going to be that. I tell you that
You're
this is
going to
what I
notice
said
a
at the
big peak
start.
in your listeners. You're going to
Hmm.
notice a big
And
peak
this is what
on.
I said. This is now my favourite podcast that I've ever recorded. So that's coming up, and then so it's just a case of kind of seeing baby steps in terms of gigging and stuff like
Yeah, I mean, I recorded an album's worth of music ready to go. I've been sitting on these songs for the last 24 months, but because the way I understand music is consumed these days, someone said it before, the waterfall effect of just a single by single releasing music.
yeah.
So I'll be releasing single by single again this year. I've got a few more songs to come out, and and then it's just me wrestling with the four guilts, which I always talk about to artists. There's the guilt of not writing enough music. There's the guilt of not releasing enough music. There's the guilt of not performing live, and there's the guilt of not posting on social media. And so I'm feeling the guilt of not writing building up inside me. I feel like that could be the year 2025, the year of writing.
Right. Well, it sounds then like you're going to be busy. I'm going to be keeping an eye on your Instagram. Obviously, I've got relatives down south, so I'll be down and start of July. So I'll be looking to see if we get anything on round a bit. I might come and see you. I'm down south for a couple of weeks, so I'll
Very
keep
nice.
my eye out for you.
You never know. I might
Um,
surprise you.
but the last part of the podcast is it's called Time for Heroes.
Of course.
So I asked my guest to pick four heroes to come for dinner, why they're your heroes, and what would you cook for them as well.
This was tricky because I feel like I've got an A list and a B list, and I feel like also I worry about, well, will the dinner party be good crack? Am I picking it for? And then I sort of talked to again my sounding board and partner Kitty O'Neill, aka March, the artist, fantastic songwriter, and she said, "Well, really, who are the people that you want to find out the most about? Who would you be curious to like talk to?" And that made it a bit easier. Um, and then I listened to you were talking to Beans on Toast
Right.
Um,
That's a quite
and
an
I
early
listened,
one as well.
yeah, and I listened to his People Heat shows, and I was like, oh, okay, I think I've got this. I think I can. Um, so I'm going to start off with someone random, and it's an adventurer called Bo Miles,
Right.
who he's just a bit of an inspiration. He he's essentially a YouTuber, but he used to be an adventurer, and uh, he just seems like a very interesting person. He one of the things that went viral on YouTube that he did was he ate his weight in beans, and then so for 104, I think for 2 months he had nothing but beans, and then registered how that affected how he felt, and he's also a bit of a runner, and because I'm a bit of a runner, he did a thing where he ran a marathon, but he ran it over 24 hours and ran a mile every at the beginning of every hour, and then in between that he did tasks around the house. So he tried to have the most productive 24 hours of his life.
Right.
Anyway, so I just read his book. I just finished reading his book, and I just think he's very very interesting and quite an inspiring individual. Um,
Yeah. And we can get him on YouTube.
you can get him on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to have a look for this guy. He
Have
sounds
a look. You'll enjoy those.
interesting.
I don't think anyone who wouldn't enjoy. He's also just really good at talking to a camera. He's a good storyteller.
Yeah, I'll check that out. That sounds um, mega interesting. And I don't know if it was a surprise to you, but you're the first person that's ever picked him on this podcast as a hero.
Yeah, I think yeah. He's fairly new on the scene, I suppose.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I went down a wee rabbit hole a few years back. I was watching like all the stuff on YouTube, see like the folk climbing stuff. Eh,
right.
I do that, and there was a lot of like kind of free runners and stuff like that. I was mega into stuff like that. I couldn't do it myself, but I loved watching it.
Yeah, I mean, even
YouTube's a mental place for
he
stuff like that.
sometimes describes his videos as like a rolling train. He wants them to feel like a rolling train going through the hills of Scandinavia, like they're just to be consumed sometimes in a therapeutic, meditative level.
Hmm.
Um, and he doesn't take himself very seriously as well, which is similar to me, I suppose. Shall I move on to hero number two?
Yeah, fire away.
Let's say a writer called Alain de Botton, who started the School of Life, has been a massive influence, I think, on probably my how I think,
Mhm.
and therefore my songwriting. He's just a professional thinker and philosopher, and like his thoughts on love and relationships and all that are just yeah. He just seems like a very smart person, and yeah, it's really I don't read, but I've read every single one of his books.
Right.
Um,
And what is it like? Is he modern day?
100%. Yeah, again, they have a YouTube channel. And it's not that everything about me is YouTube, but they have a YouTube channel called The School of Life, and they have these short videos on emotional health and emotional education, on everything from um, how to leave a lover to um, a, a video on Nietzsche and philosophers and whatnot. So he's
Yeah.
really interesting books on love and how to survive. Currently reading a book on how to survive the modern world, how to live in the modern
I
world.
think we could all use that, to be fair.
Yeah,
But I that's another one again on YouTube. I'm going to go and check that out. These are kind of something a bit different, quite like that.
I mean he's very accessible as well. He's just the way he talks. He's very easy to understand. Speaks in very accessible ways, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, sounds interesting.
I feel I'm getting darker. I feel like my video is getting darker as this
I don't know.
podcast.
I thought it's just the sunlight. Yeah,
Is
and
that better? That's slightly better. You know what I should have done ages ago was that.
yeah, you get good weather down there. I think ours is quite good the now as well.
Is it?
See if it lasts.
Yeah, I should be wearing more sun cream. stay in the shadows, really.
Yeah,
Hero number three.
yeah, number three. Yeah,
Hero number three. Ooh, is probably a comedian called Tim Key.
yeah. Does the poetry as well.
Does the poetry. Went to see him last night. He's doing a work in progress for his Edinburgh up and coming Edinburgh residency.
Right.
Um, Discovered him through podcasts, and I've just been again kind of obsessed with his mind, the way he thinks, and how quick he is, and he's just his sense of humor. I don't know. It's just I find it so. There's something about it. I
Mm.
might be a little bit in love, Martin.
It's something a bit different in it. Like he is a comedian, but he seems so different for his peers. It,
Yeah, I mean, I think he puts on more of a show than he's not like your standard comedian that he just tells jokes with a microphone. Like he has music in the background, he has his poetry. Um, but I just think he's brilliant. Yeah, I think he's an absolute genius. Um, and if you get a chance, I don't know how close you are to Edinburgh, but if you get a chance to go see him in the Fringe, I'd highly
yeah,
recommend.
I mean, even for my last episode with my last guest, I think she's doing a play on Monday tomorrow in Clapham. All about the Libertines. She's obviously one of the Libertine sisters, and it's all about growing
Oh,
up
wow.
in that period. Um, that's in Clapham. I'll just do another wee advert for that. It will be out after this anyway. I think, but for you, it's in Clapham. What is it? The Omnibus Theatre in Clapham.
Oh, fair bit,
It's
yeah.
running next. It's running all next week. But she's going to Edinburgh Fringe this year as well. So I've got a long list of things that I need to go and see at the Fringe this year.
Do you go every year, Martin?
I've been like the odd time just for like a day, but I mean it's brilliant there. You
I've
always
never
get
been.
good
I've
weather
I've
for the
always wanted
Fringe.
to go, but I've never been. I'd be very definitely one thing to tick off the list.
Yeah, yeah, it's brilliant. The city's so vibrant and about that. It's just it's always really busy and there's always something to see. So I'll be looking at taking a couple of days in there this year, I think. So I'll go and
Lucky
check
you.
that. I'll check Tim Key out. I would imagine his tickets will go really quick though, but I'll be looking for
Yeah,
that.
get booking his tickets as soon as they go.
But so I'll be doing that, and I'll be going to see Lucy as well, and whatever else comes up round about that.
Nice. Hero
And
number four.
yeah, last one,
This is tricky because I haven't actually picked an artist, a musician yet,
right?
and there's definitely two that I really struggle with. You know, based on as a songwriter, or as someone who's kind of influenced me. But I suppose I'm gonna have to say Damien Rice.
If you've got two, right? If you've got two and you're struggling to choose between them, I'll allow you to have both.
Well, Flea, the Chili Peppers bass player,
Right.
has been just um, in many ways a bigger inspiration, and just such an enigmatic character, and the way he has presented music has just been really inspiring. Um,
Mhm. And
yeah, I'd have so many
obviously,
questions from.
he was like the first. That was the first kind of music that you spoke about at the start of the podcast. Was the Red Hot Chili Peppers? So to pick
That was the
obviously
spark
choose.
for sure. That was the spark. Damien was more, oh, this is how people, this is a way of sharing your thoughts. I think I could do a similar thing.
Hmm.
Um, or I really like how he does it, more kind of honing in on who I was as an artist. But the spark came from, if anyone, came from Flea.
Yeah, two amazing artists. The thing I like about Damien Rice is that he doesn't do a lot. He goes away for long
Yeah.
periods and then just it's kind of on his terms.
Well, really, all of us Damien Rice fans are desperate to hear another album.
Yeah.
Really. So if you're listening, Damien,
I don't think there's really anybody that you can kind of compare him to either. He just seems to be Damien Rice, and that's it.
that's I've never. Mm,
Other than
yeah.
yourself, because I compared you to him earlier.
Oh no, I mean, if we're talking about who's
Mm.
coming close to Damien Rice, I mean, I think a lot of people would say Leonard Cohen is a he would he it's he's said many times that Leonard Cohen is one of his biggest inspirations, and he has literally written his I think his one of his last songs that he released is about women, about his sister, his ex-girlfriend, his girlfriend, and his mum going to a concert with him of Leonard Cohen, and all coming to the realization that they're going to have to go back to their husbands after seeing Leonard Cohen on stage. And Leonard Cohen has this effect on women, and but also from a poet point of view,
Mm.
poetic point of view, I think Leonard maybe sits in that space. That's going back. I don't know about going forward. Who who else would I put in Damien's shoes? Glenn Hansard.
Who?
Glenn Hansard. The Frames.
All right, yeah, yeah,
He's 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 up there.
yeah. But again, there isn't much really, is there? It's just he's so kind of there on that kind of in his own kind of space.
There's not a lot to do what he does, and
Yeah,
it's hard to put a finger on what he does. He kind of goes straight to the human soul more than anyone that I have ever heard.
yeah, totally. I'm gonna. That's what I'm gonna be listening to tomorrow now. Damien Rice.
Yeah, if you want to feel a little bit sad.
But I think at times they can be sad, but then there's just moments that are uplifting in those songs as well.
Yeah, oh for sure.
And the lyrics are some of the most intelligent, and the lyrics are just everything about the lyrics is I don't know how to describe it, but it's just everything's woven together. It's masterpieces, really.
Well, I don't know how well he's known outside of maybe Ireland and Scotland and England. Like I don't know how well he's known in America. I don't know that he's really broke in America. I know he's well loved in the rest of Europe. I know he's
Right.
massive fans in Italy and whatnot. And he spent a lot of time just on a boat in the Mediterranean. I think that's his last thing he's been doing, just doing shows on a boat. I know he went to he's been doing shows around the coast of Italy, and my two brothers went to see him, and he was coming out after his shows and playing like little acoustic sets in the street, and there were
Right.
two Irish people in the audience asked him, "Why don't you come back and play in Ireland?" And I think he just kind of mumbled an answer, but I think he just likes the weather.
Well, you can't fault him for that.
No, I suppose you can't, but I think
And
he's yeah. Anyway,
so these five guests actually. So what would you cook for this lot?
I mean, are you ready? Because it's a big meal.
Right. After that.
Well, the water course would be Guinness.
Perfect.
The bread course would
I'd
be.
just stop at that. I'd be happy with
Are
that.
we done? Yeah, yeah. Just open a couple of cans. Uh, the bread course would be bacon sandwich, and then I'd as a starter I'd probably make some chicken tacos, and then a main would probably be a lamb madras, and then I'd probably finish with, you know what? I was going to say a bunch of cakes, but actually in the weather that we're having, and given that I was in Italy last year, some sort of pistachio gelato.
Oh, lovely.
How about all that? Is that too
Yeah.
much?
That sounds amazing. Are you cooking this yourself?
Yeah, why not?
I
I'm
just
in this situation. I'm an amazing cook. I'm just imagining.
right. Just because obviously the guy that recommended you to me, Ollie, he probably did the biggest menu that we've ever had, and I think he's like heavily into his cooking, so I didn't know if it kind of rubbed off on yourself.
I know. I just one of my favorite podcasts is a podcast called Off Menu,
James Acaster.
which is where they essentially, and I've had this since being obsessed with this podcast. I've had my own menu and so it's got to be that menu really. If it's one, it's a lamb madras. If it's only one meal, I'm cooking. But if I get to have
we're having
5
the lot of
courses,
it. You can have the lot of it, and I'll make sure that I'm coming to this dinner party as well, because there's some cracking guests there and some cracking food and tins of Guinness, so it can't go wrong.
you could not go wrong.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. You've been a tremendous guest. I'll be
Thank
looking
you so much for having me on the show, Martin.
Thank you. I'll be looking out for your new music. I'll be looking for some gigs maybe when I'm down south. And just all the best with your vocal cords and stuff, and hope that you make a full speedy recovery.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, yeah. But an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I'll post all your links and all that in the show notes for people to come and find you on social media and stuff. They can go through your Instagram as meticulously as I have over the last couple of days. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Time for Heroes podcast. If you would like to get in touch, the best way is on the Facebook page, Time for Heroes podcast, or on Instagram at Time for Heroes podcast, or Twitter at Time for Heroes P1, or drop me an email at timeforheroespod@gmail.com. You'll find Time for Heroes on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google, and Amazon. Please leave a review where you can, share with others, and more importantly, enjoy.